The emergency room doors slid open with a sharp hiss, and in that single moment I realized that sometimes the greatest heartbreak isn't hearing terrible news from a doctor, it's discovering that someone you've shared a home with every single day has been carrying a secret so heavy that even pain couldn't force them to tell you. I thought I knew my roommate better than anyone. We had survived late rent payments, broken appliances, endless work shifts, and lonely holidays together. But when I glanced at the urgent care registration form while helping her fill it out, one small handwritten word beneath the relationship section shattered everything I believed I understood about us. Before we continue, if stories about kindness, hope, and unexpected second chances inspire you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness so you never miss another emotional journey. Her name was Emily, and we had lived together for almost 3 years. We weren't family by blood, and we had never been romantically involved. We were simply two strangers who answered the same apartment listing after college and somehow became each other's safest place. She knew exactly how I liked my coffee before stressful workdays, and I always remembered to leave the hallway light on whenever she worked late shifts at the bookstore. We celebrated birthdays with grocery store cakes because money was always tight, laughed over burned dinners, and quietly sat together during nights when life simply felt too heavy to explain. We were two lonely people who accidentally built a home out of shared routines. The day everything changed began like every ordinary Tuesday. Rain tapped softly against the apartment windows while we rushed through breakfast before heading to work. Emily complained about feeling dizzy, but she smiled anyway, insisting she only needed more sleep. By noon she texted me that the pain had become unbearable. Her words were unusually short, and something inside me knew this wasn't just another headache. I left work early, drove home through pouring rain, and found her curled up on the living room floor, pale enough to make my heart race. She tried apologizing for ruining my day, but I barely heard her. All I cared about was getting her medical attention before whatever was happening became worse. The drive to urgent care felt endless. Every red light seemed cruel. Every minute stretched longer than the last. Emily stared silently out the passenger window while holding her side, trying not to cry. She kept whispering that she would be okay, but her trembling hands told a different story. Watching someone you care about hide their pain is one of the hardest things in the world because you know they are trying to protect you even while they are falling apart themselves. Inside the waiting room, the receptionist handed us several forms. Emily's hands shook too much to write clearly, so I offered to help fill out the paperwork while she focused on breathing. Name, birthday, emergency contact, insurance information, everything was routine until I reached the line asking for relationship to emergency contact. I expected to write friend without thinking. Instead, I noticed she had already filled in that blank herself before handing me the clipboard. In careful handwriting she had written one word that froze me completely. Family. I looked at her, confused. She quickly looked away, pretending not to notice my expression. My first instinct was to assume she had made a mistake because of the pain medication or exhaustion. But something about the way she avoided my eyes made it obvious the word had been chosen deliberately. The receptionist called her name before I could ask any questions, and the clipboard disappeared from my hands. While nurses examined her, I sat alone in the waiting room replaying that single word over and over. Family. We weren't related. We had never even discussed calling each other siblings. Yet somehow, in the moment when she believed she might be facing something serious, that was the word she chose. Not roommate. Not friend. Family. After several hours, the doctor explained that Emily had a severe infection that required immediate treatment but had been caught early enough to avoid surgery. Relief washed over me so suddenly that I nearly cried. I hadn't realized how tightly fear had wrapped around my chest until those words finally loosened its grip. Emily was exhausted after receiving medication, and while waiting for discharge papers she quietly admitted something she had never shared before. Years earlier, after losing both of her parents within 18 months, the rest of her relatives slowly disappeared from her life. Some moved away. Others stopped answering calls. Holidays became empty apartments, birthdays became ordinary workdays, and every emergency forced her to wonder who would even notice if she never came home. When we became roommates, she expected another temporary arrangement. Instead, she found someone who always came back, someone who remembered the little things, someone who stayed. She explained that every apartment before ours had simply been a place to sleep. Ours became the first place that ever felt like home again. She said she never found the courage to tell me because she worried it would sound strange or make me uncomfortable. But when the nurse asked who should be contacted if anything happened, she realized there wasn't anyone else she trusted. Writing, family, wasn't pretending. It was simply writing what her heart already believed. Her confession left me speechless. I had spent years assuming I was just helping a roommate through difficult seasons while she had quietly been rebuilding her entire world around small acts I barely remembered doing. Every bowl of soup I made when she was sick, every ride to work when her car broke down, every movie night after long weeks, every conversation that lasted until sunrise, they had become the pieces of a family neither of us realized we were creating. Driving home that evening felt completely different from the anxious trip to the clinic. The rain had stopped, and golden sunlight pushed through the clouds as if the world itself had decided to breathe again. Our apartment looked exactly the same, yet everything inside it felt transformed. Home was no longer defined by leases, furniture, or shared utility bills. Home was simply the place where someone would always show up when you needed them most. Over the following weeks Emily recovered steadily. We started cooking dinners together more often, celebrating ordinary days instead of waiting for special occasions. We invited neighbors who lived alone to holiday meals. We volunteered together at a local shelter, discovering that loneliness often hides behind ordinary smiles. The kindness we had accidentally given each other slowly spread into the lives of people around us, proving that compassion rarely stops with one person. I also realized how often society limits the meaning of family to genetics or legal documents. Yet some of the strongest families are built through loyalty, sacrifice, consistency, and love freely chosen every single day. Blood can introduce people, but kindness is often what truly keeps them together. If this story has touched your heart so far, please support this video by liking it, sharing it with someone who may need hope today, and subscribing to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps more uplifting stories reach people who may feel completely alone. Special request, tell us in the comments, who is someone in your life who became family even though you aren't related? As I looked around our apartment that night, I realized nothing extraordinary had really happened. There had been no grand speeches, no dramatic promises, and no perfect ending waiting at the hospital doors. There had simply been one frightened person writing a single honest word on a medical form and another person finally understanding what that word truly meant. Sometimes the greatest relationships aren't announced with celebrations. They are quietly built through ordinary days, shared struggles, unwavering presence, and countless moments when someone chooses not to walk away. That tiny handwritten word reminded me that family isn't always where life begins. Sometimes, through kindness, patience, and second chances, it's where life finally feels safe enough to begin again.